When Meripet travelled with her husband and young baby to Turkey to visit her sick father, she left 4 of their children with family. The oldest was 8, the youngest just 3. But that trip appears to have coincided with what the United Nations says was a systematic campaign by the Chinese government to round up Muslim Uyghurs and other minorities under the pretext of countering terrorism and religious extremism. Meripet says Chinese authorities weren't just targeting adults. Her children were apparently taken to this orphanage. She hasn't heard from them since.
After I got the news, I was so upset. I want them to grow up with me. Every time I think of them, I think of the things that have happened. I feel horrible. There isn't a day when I haven't cried.
Meripet is now living in exile, unable to return to Xinjiang. She believes her children were swept up in a large-scale campaign aimed at replacing the Muslim Uyghur identity with a Chinese one, something the Chinese government denies.
Xinjiang's consistent measures are intended to promote stability, development, harmony, and at the same time strike against ethnic separatists and terrorist opposition movements according to the law.
Abdurrahman Ayman doesn't buy the official Chinese line. From Kashgar, he fled China 5 years ago after what he says was repeated harassment over his activism and writings. Since then, his wife was arrested and he hasn't heard from his 5 children. His daughter is thought to be at this so-called bilingual school, but a sign at the front gate tells students to speak only Mandarin on campus.
It's brutality. It's even worse than being killed. What the Chinese government's doing is torture.
Some analysts say China is repeating now widely condemned colonial practices of taking children against their will from their indigenous communities.
Uyghurs view the education system as one of the primary threats to their future as a society, as a Uyghur society, and to their families.
Meripet describes an overwhelming sense of despair.
I want to tell them, I'm so sorry.
Despair at being separated from the children she loves. Despair that the next generation of Uyghur may be stripped of the language and identity they hold so dear. Mereana, Al Jazeera.